meeting, the public safety meeting. I called for a committee meeting regarding the amendment to the ATV regulations, Ordinance 15. Last meeting that we had some concerns by Councilman Moody, who's not going to be here, but I'd like to open the floor up for discussion. I know I had some concerns, and I know we have the attorney here that wrote some of this legislation. So what I think the concern was it says that the Public Safety Commissioner and 2 City of Utica employees designated by the Public Safety Commissioner will make up, will have a hearing for the persons involved in the ATV, and then they will make a decision on what to do with the fine and anything else that pertains to the ATV. And I think the concern from Councilman Moody was that there's no names or faces to these positions. Who are they? Could he just pick someone from the first floor, second floor, whoever it may be? So maybe we could put a title to the positions. So my idea was maybe policeman in the traffic division would be one. So whoever's available that day that they have the hearing, that.
So I can just, well.
Go ahead. If you want to speak, go ahead. But that would be one of my concerns, but go ahead.
So the only problem with having someone from the police department designated in that position is likely the police department will be called as a witness. So you can't have.
The officer who issued the.
Well, not necessarily the officer that issued the ticket, but you can't have the police department sitting
Okay.
on where we have.
Makes sense.
Potential witnesses that are members of law enforcement, because they'll be likely issuing and seizing.
Okay.
The ATVs.
I think department head status.
And I believe, I did get some clarification, it'll be 2 public safety designees, and I know there were some issues with who currently is the public safety commissioner. I know it's right now the mayor, but whoever that may be. So if it comes to the point where we have a different public safety commissioner, and anybody appointed, so if the public safety commissioner is you, for example, your 2 designees in public safety would be the two people that would serve. So it's not gonna be a random, it's not just gonna be Joe Schmo.
So they have to be somebody in public safety? Is that what you're getting at? But we didn't spell it out here, though. I mean, they said, let's see, to determine, let's say 2 City of Utica employees designated by the Public Safety Commissioner. So, but not employed by the public safety, or working under the Public Safety Commissioner. So it would be could we have a firefighter, a police officer? I mean, who do you have in public safety other than the Public Safety Commissioner itself?
Like I said, I think the reason for that is we don't want any problems where we have witnesses coming in.
They're biased.
Yeah, so for the same reason so for example, the City of Utica will be prosecuting, so my office will be the one prosecuting the offenses. So that's where we're gonna run into the issue where there's conflicts. So I think that's why it was left vague, and that's why there's no police departments out there, fire departments out there, for that specific reason.
Okay.
So that's the main reason, and because I know you had mentioned, because I think Delvin had mentioned that the last time, that he wanted a member of the police department there. That's why we don't have one of them specifically
That's
designated.
why you put it vague in there. You gotta be able to defend the city you have.
Correct.
So that's why I understand.
So
Right.
it's a procedural thing to prevent conflicts of interest, because
Right.
we have to follow our own policy, obviously, and when we don't follow that policy, we're,
All right.
we open ourselves up to suit, and obviously less likely to defend what we're,
Yes, but when the commissioner, Public Safety Commissioner, picks 2 persons, it could be any employee in the city hall, any employee employed by the city, or how does it, I just don't understand.
didn't really
It doesn't spell it
specify.
out.
It just says any employee, any person.
So he could pick a department head,
It
Mike
doesn't say
Mahoney,
that.
and.
Does it tell you that he has to be a city employee?
It says 2 City of Utica employees designated by the Public Safety
So it could be
Commissioner.
Okay, so it has to be one person, it could be a guy from DPW, whatever the mayor feels,
Or the
or
pu-
that mayor at that time.
Well, the
feels-
public safety commissioner, whoever that is, whether
Right.
it's the mayor or
Or
not the
public
mayor.
safety commissioner.
Yeah.
So-
And I think that was Councilman Moody's concern, so, I mean,
And
I have
they
no
can always
problem
take
with.
it to court too. This is not, if the person who had his ATV, repossessed or took, taken by the police department, they can always go to court, and if the judge feels that the person was treated unfairly, the judge will overturn it.
And I just wanna make it clear, as far as, the appeal process goes, most appeal processes, you usually have, some kind of hearing, and then you have an internal appeals process. We skipped our own internal appeals process and giving them the direct opportunity to go straight to.
Which is more convenient because there's no attorneys needed, no filing needed, no nothing like that. Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. I don't agree with the process here. I just agree how they're gonna get personnel to rule on a decision. And it could be inconsistent. It could be a different person for three different, people that are caught driving illegal
Oh, is there a
ATV.
term?
So there's no consistent,
Is there a term for
panel.
mayor's appointments?
Um,
I didn't think about it like that.
Because that would help Frankie resolve that problem, if there's a term for the mayor's appointments. So in other words, it wouldn't have to run consecutive with the mayor's term.
The same guys for a year or something.
Absolutely.
so it would have to be the
I-
same designated person
He would choose.
or persons for a certain term.
Right,
As opposed to ad hoc?
correct.
I was assuming it would be ad hoc.
Well, that would be a little whimsical, don't you think? Don't you think a person that comes to each meeting, knows the background, knows how to make a decision?
Right.
Is a little more familiar with it? So I believe that either you give his appointees a 2-year term or 4-year term, which runs,
Even
cool-
year.
Right, with the
Odd
mayor.
years, yeah.
Yes. So if the council would like to put a term in there, that's congenial, because now the mayor says, okay, I want to appoint Mark Williamson for 2 years. Okay, I want to appoint Frankie DeBrango for 2 years. You guys can sit on the board. There's no
Yeah, I mean,
decision.
it's not a bad idea, but, my other thought is, let's say it occurred in the park. Let's say that they caught this ATV in the park and they were destroying the park. So I think it would be right to maybe have the Parks Commissioner be called in to say, okay, this is how much damage they caused, and,
Well,
so.
So,
I-
so,
you know, I
so
don't-
again, you're gonna run into some problems with bias. So for example, if it was something where they were driving through, Proctor Park, and it was, Dave Short that came and said, I saw them driving, they're gonna call him as a witness.
Yeah,
So,
all right.
I think by having someone who, is a little bit less involved, and I don't know who the mayor.
So they don't have to be city employees, they could be anybody.
No, it is 2 city employees, but, having specific people that you think, know about.
Of course, Dave
Are gonna
Shore
be
would
biased.
abstain
I
to
see
it
your
if he was
point.
on the
I
board
see your
because
point.
what they did to the park. That would make sense.
No, but they gotta be able to defend, so.
Right.
Why do we want it to be employees and not just members of the community?
You can broaden that. You could do that. There's nothing wrong with that.
You could, I mean, the only potential problem that I would see, sometimes it is hard to get people to serve and be available for some of these.
Of course, if they can't make a meeting 2 times in a row, they would have to be discharged or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're adding and making it a little bit more complicated when you start adding, I mean, and you can add a term limit, but when you start saying, well, if they miss 2 meetings, then they're out, we appoint someone new.
I mean,
It
this
just-
legislation's in its infancy. It's not, and we can fine tune it as we go.
Listen, I don't mind, I'm not complaining about it, I thought maybe just put a title to it, but I don't wanna, I want Councilman Moody to express himself, and he can't be here tonight, so I was trying to see what he was looking for. But I wanna say one thing, I think the judge looked up, he's got some information on the traffic, everybody's got it in their packet about the ATV laws, and there's a local laws in there, no locally, let's see, no locality.
Mr. Councilman DeBrango, the judge had his finger up.
Okay, hold on, I just want to read this. No locality may require its own ATV license registrations, but it may impose additional restrictions or rules on ATV operation. Find out about special ATVs in your area and obey them. So, this is the book of rules, and this is what they have to follow, right? But,
Mr. Brango,
yeah,
I wanted you to know before you go too far that I went to the district attorney's office and I wanted to know how big a problem this is. interestingly enough, the problem isn't so much Utica. The biggest problem they're having is people out of the town of Frankfurt come down the road and they come in to the parklands. And they go wherever there is a vacant land. They're very difficult to deal with. Of course, the county district attorney's office has county jurisdiction, and so they can get sheriffs and all that sort of thing. So they're really a problem. The reason I gave you all of that information about ATVs is for the reason that ATVs are a lot like snowmobiles. They don't belong on the highway. There's a lot of, in fact, ATVs are pretty much useless to a buyer who lives in a city, because if they don't have a place that are designated for ATVs, you can't be there.
Right.
You can cross a highway if you go from place A to B that are places you can be. But that's all. You can't drive down a highway. You have to register an ATV, and you have to insure it. And the owner and the operator are liable. And I gave you all that information because ATVs are in the motor vehicle law, they're in the Parks Recreations law, and really why anybody in the city would buy one is rather mystifying, because unless there's a designated place for you to use it, it's really a useless vehicle to you, number one. Number two, they have age restrictions, as you see in there, and you have to
Yes.
get certificates and all of that. You don't have to have a driver's license.
You have to take a
And that's
course.
why, because you're not driving on the highway. So the real problem is when people try to take an ATV who live in the city and try to go into the parklands. And the people who come from outside of the city limits who want to drive into parklands. Because unless you have a big private place or a designated place, the ATV is like a snowmobile. You take a snowmobile, but snowmobiles are a lot different than ATVs in that snowmobiling is very, very popular, and there are hundreds of trails. And you have to transport your vehicle there, put it on the trail, and then you can ride all over the place. So I'm telling you, the law that was sent down, was it prepared by you?
It was not.
Who was it?
It was Zach and Sharish.
Well, anyway, the law that was sent down, actually, you have the power under the motor vehicle law to enact an ordinance or local law that changes or makes it more stricter. But if you do that, you have to file that law with the Commissioner of Motor Vehicles. Other than that, it seems the only thing that you seem to be concerned about this evening, and I could be wrong, is the hearing process. Which the hearing process here is, as I said once before, it's much more expanded than any other hearing process. But again, you're the legislative body, you can do what you wish. What did you want to say,
No,
Steph?
and I will just echo what Judge Garamone had said. We're talking about a handful, of ATVs, and the stuff that occurs
Yep.
in the summer. We're not talking about hundreds and hundreds of
Correct.
hearings that we're gonna be having. So it's a handful of, ATVs or people driving ATVs that for a couple months in the summer that, this will be an issue at that point.
Yeah, and they do have a tendency to drive recklessly, and it does affect residents and motorists and things of that nature, so I understand
You
that
got your
point.
microphone on?
The only, I'd like to keep this back in committee. I'd just like to have Councilman Moody, who brought up this whole situation, to at least discuss it further with the committee.
From my notes at the last meeting, his main concern, I think we should have him here too, if you want that, but.
Do you have your mic on?
Yes.
Okay.
Councilman Moody's, one of his main concerns was, to him, it was unclear who would be appointed to be this
Yes, and
advice,
that's what I brought up
review
earlier.
board. Yeah, exactly.
And there's no name, and there's no titles to whoever the persons may be on the committee, and that way I think was his concern. So let's hold off. Let's see what else he has to say, and then we'll clean it up hopefully next committee meeting.
Will he be here for, is he good?
He'll be here at 6. If we have time, we could discuss it further.
We can discuss it.
Okay. Yeah. All right, there's,
Any other questions that you guys have on the?
No?
I don't have any, I'm okay with it as it is, but I just want to make sure he's satisfied and we come up to an agreement before we vote on it.
If you bump into Councilman Mooney, maybe you can explain to him how the appointment works, so he's clarified, he's clear with it.
Okay.
And then if he's fine with it, we'll motion to move it out of committee and go from there. All right? Frank, you okay with that?
Yeah, yeah.
That's it?
No, I just wanted to, I had two items in the Public Safety Committee, which I'm going to discharge. I don't think you have it in front of you, but it's Ordinance 7, amended Section 2-28-31 towing on 4/21/2021, and Ordinance 8, Section 2-28-47 towing, same date. What it was is, we were having some issues where there was overcharging at some of the tow truck operators. Some of the companies that would come and they would, just outrageous prices, and we were gonna try to tweak that a little bit and amend it. But it seems like the city and the police department have it under control right now, so I just, I don't think there's a need to change anything. Let it stay as is, and if there's an issue, I'm sure we could bring it out again in the future. So I am gonna discharge two of those items. That's it, that's all I have.
You okay with that, Bob? You hear him?
You know, I don't know if they're paying attention, but I'm talking, let 'em know.
Yeah,
I'm gonna discharge these, so I'll bring them out, and then we'll discharge them on the floor, I would imagine.
make a motion to come out of committee then, and
Yeah,
I'll make a motion to come out of committee. Bob, you wanna second that? I'll second it. Okay.
yeah, we're gonna do that on the floor, and then we'll discharge it. Do we have to do that? We have to do that on the floor, right? Bring them out and then discharge them. Yeah. So we'll do that at our regular meeting.
And I was thinking, there may be some different amendments to the towing, there was something we pointed out tonight, so some rules changes that might be coming up, but that'll be one side.
Yeah, we'll make up some new
Yeah, so,
legislation.
yeah, but,
Okay, I'm good with that. I don't have anything else to discuss in Public Safety Committee. Does anybody have anything else they want to discuss? No? Okay.
You don't have quorum anymore anyways.
You got 15 minutes on the floor.
We gotta talk about the shutting down, these corner stores without gas pumps at a certain time at night. That's public safety, wouldn't that come out of-
It's not, I don't see it in here.
No, we were gonna discuss, we didn't wanna discuss it.
Yeah.
Oh, there it is. I was joking around with the fake.
I want to refer to the judge on that and maybe her because they know the legality of it. Could we set a time frame where these convenience stores could be?
Without gas pumps, you know, they can't stay open at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, and, you know.
Could we set a time for closing and maybe opening at 6 a.m. or something? I don't know if we can do that,
so
but
I'd have to look into that if you can set, you know.
Yeah, so for maybe our next meeting, we need to bring that up, because she also brought up the looms, you know, the lighting. Some of this is really bright, some of these places are right next door to residential, places, but they got those huge illuminated lights that are, I mean,
So that would be stuff I have to look into.
Yeah.
The only thing, and I don't know about the lights, but my initial response is there may be some requirement of lighting for safety and general lighting.
right.
So-
But there are some concerns as the window too. All that sales or whatever they have in the window, that window should be clear. The cash register should be. But there is legislation out there. I don't know if the mayor brought it out yet. He showed me something they were working on because I was concerned about it. He says we're working on it. So maybe we want to just look at that a little bit deeper.
Yeah, I can look into the,
Just
you
that,
know,
right now, the concern is the time frame. If
I
we
mean, I
could,
know, you know, I know that you have the moratorium in place.
yes.
So, you know, we have several months to work this out, we have things to make changes to the zoning, but this can be an ongoing discussion. I can, like I said, I can look into
maybe
it.
just like you said, the illumination of the place for safety reasons, but they
I mean,
have multicolored carnival stuff.
Actually, Stephanie, the lighting,
Yes,
in all seriousness, I believe could be regulated under the same, sorry, I'm fried. I had a long day as well. The same type of legislation that regulates noise, I believe the lighting, within a certain distance you could do.
yeah, and like
I
I
mean, you
said,
know that, but I'm
like
just
I
saying,
said,
like, I
just-
think that's how you could go after it.
like I said, I just don't know based on,
Yeah, I mean, we got
because,
time.
you know, for example, you know, you have a gas station, they do require, you know,
Because
like,
the city's gotta be able to defend if we have an issue, that's all.
yeah, but I can definitely take a look at that. I mean, and the only thing I would just generally point out, you know, you can have a lot that you can't speed, people speed.
Way too early.
See,
So I-
growing up, when we were younger, we're talking about.
You just gotta realize, you still go to bed.
No, and like I said, honestly, you know.
You still go to bed at 3 in the morning, waking up early. No, I got up at 4 and drove to so pick up a tiny dirt bike for my kids. Tiny dirt bike.
And we'd ask.
Yeah,
An ATV.
they're teaming up on you, they're ganging up on you here.
No, nothing about ATV stuff. We're talking about something.
So we can ride it around in my CJ.
No.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
that's normal.
No,
Now,
I get up at 4, I'm still going to bed at 1.
Right,
midnight, but we didn't have that problem because
They did and they also didn't. So unfortunately, technically, you should keep it.
now, it didn't have gas pumps, now gas pumps is different. That's different. The gas law.
yeah, I'll definitely look into it, like I said, this could be an ongoing discussion about that, you know, but.
They don't have gas pumps.
well,
You're right, she's gotta give it to you. It's just an old one, it's been sitting there for about
Councilman
6
Drago.
months now.
You know what else is
Co-
different?
So one of the things I kind of.
Councilman.
You know, which is why I included it in the new.
Councilman, this is actually pretty important. The feed is still live because you guys didn't technically adjourn. So if you're adjourned,
I'm trying to get a clean slate
Yeah.
for,
well, my point is you're still live, just kind of like huddled. Not that's what I'm saying. You're still on a live feed for YouTube right now. Did you adjourn it?
I thought they had a vote.
We second, I mean, first and second.
Oh, then kill the feed. All right, perfect. That's why I just wanted to know if there was
This is
clarification.
sidebar stuff now.
Yeah, perfect.
good?
For now, that's just confidential.
Okay. Oh, okay, yeah.
Good.
All right, this starts the City of Utica Common Council Pre-Caucus Caucus meeting for October 20th, 2021. We're going to get started with resolution number 3. Resolution appointing a candidate to the Oneida County Board of Legislators for appointment to the Upper Mohawk Valley Regional Water Board. That would be for Richard Karam.
Yeah, Richard's been an asset to that water board for years now. I did make a call to Mr. Karam, and because of his consistency in making every meeting, not like some of the appointments that we had before, he's been doing a very good job, and they said that he's enjoyable to sit there, so, and he's an asset there. If the council doesn't mind, I'd like to see him reappointed for another term.
Councilman, yeah.
I would like us to, is my mic on? I would like us to consider, not necessarily in terms of Mr. Karam, but in general, as we make appointments to the board, perhaps including somebody who is a public health expert, a climate change expert, perhaps somebody who knows a lot about lead in water and the problems it can cause, et cetera. I'd really like to get this board a little more diversified in terms of some expert scientific knowledge, given how important it is, the water as it flows into our homes. Thank you.
Next, ordinance number 4, Councilman Burmaster, intersection where stop required. Ordain that section 2-16-358 Schedule C, intersection where stop required, be amended to include the following: Erie Street and Jason Street intersection northeast corner to control westbound traffic, Erie Street and Jason Street intersection southwest corner to control eastbound traffic. You okay with that? Next is resolution number 5, authorizing the sale of wine and beer to FX Matt Brewing Company. This would be the New Year's Eve party for Bank of Utica, Friday, December 31st from 7 p.m. to 12:30 a.m. on Saturday, January 1st, from Genesee Street between Devereaux Street and Bank Place.
Sounds like fun.
Full council?
I would love that. I'll do my best.
Next is for Councilman Williamson. Resolution number 6. Resolution to honor the life and legacy of General Elder Charles Henry Felton Sr.
Is this Moody or Williamson?
Yeah, but Moody's not here,
Oh.
so I figured since he's an at-large, I could, if you're okay with that.
Okay.
Next will be ordinance number 7, Councilman Burmaster, no parking at all times. Ordain that section 2-16-360 Schedule E, no parking at all times, be amended to include the following: Hager Street, east side from Lamb Street to Dead End. You okay with that? Next is ordinance number 8 from Councilmember Miola, no parking at all times. Ordain that section 2-16-360 Schedule E, no parking at all times, be amended to include the following: Harrison Ave, east side.
Yeah, council members, if you ever campaign on Harrison Ave, you know how small that street is and tight. So I've had a ton of complaints about the plowing for the years, and a couple of the neighbors said, please put no parking on the east side, and if the at-large agrees to it, let's move forward with it.
Let's move forward.
Thank you.
Next is ordinance number 9. It's a transfer of funds from 2020-2021 fiscal year, code salary for electrical inspector. It'll be coming from A53625-101, codes department salaries in the amount of $21,600 to A53620-101, building code salary in the amount of $20,000, and A53620-802, building code social security in the amount of $1,600. Any questions on that?
If we do, we gotta ask Michael.
Yes.
Okay.
Next is ordinance number 10, Councilmember Friend. Intersection where stop required. Ordain that section 2-16-358 Schedule C, intersection where stop required, be amended to include the following: Westminster Road, northeast corner and southwest corner to control traffic on Westminster Road.
So just so that everybody knows, this is in order to take what is currently a two-way stop and turn it into a four-way stop. This is right near Jones School, and so there's a lot of pedestrian traffic, especially at pickup and drop-off times. Mr. Miola suggested it ought really to say Westminster Road, northeast corner and southwest corner to control traffic on Westminster Road and Dunham Road. That is the intersection of Westminster and Dunham. So I would just like it to say Westminster Road and Dunham Road.
Clerk, can you add that and Dunham to the last? Thank you.
Next, we'll go to ordinance number 2. Ordinance approving the designation of Marisol Collado and as an eligible and qualified project sponsor pursuant to Article 15 of the General Municipal Law for the purpose of the sale of 503-505 Leah Street in the amount of $250. Next is ordinance number 4 for the sale of 1,144 Brinkerhoff Avenue in the amount of $250. Next is ordinance number 6, ordinance approving the sale of 782 Elizabeth Street in the amount of $12,000.
I think that's my section.
Next is ordinance number 8, approving the sale of 824 Weverly Place in the amount of $15,500. Next is resolution number 1, calling for a public hearing on the sale of 1,311 Francis Street in the amount of $250.
Who's got Francis Street? Burmaster? Oh, Maria does.
Yeah, I'm good with that. But normally they have the,
In the future.
yeah,
Okay.
ordinance number 2. The sale of 1,311 Francis Street in the amount of $250.
McNeil. Okay. Gotcha.
Anything? Anything that,
I believe we have one more piece, ordinance 11 on High Street. I don't think you covered that.
Yeah, we did. I mean, I get it.
That
Yeah.
was just put in. Matter of fact,
Yep.
guys, I was on High Street in James, and there's no stop sign on High. Cop was coming out, and the guy was coming out right at me, and he just give me the look. So I looked at the intersection, and the stop sign, the bottom post was there, but the sign wasn't there, and the legislation wasn't in
Just
recorded.
replacing it.
So it's actually Delvin Moody's section. So I just I put
By the school.
right. I like Devin Moody to sponsor it and take the lead on it as soon as he gets back. I just want to give him
Okay.
bring him up to speed on it.
Okay.
so this would be ordinance
As long
11.
as it's okay with Delvin, that's all. All right?
Can we get
I hope
paperwork
so.
for that?
It's right here. It should be in front of you. There were
Yeah, I've seen it.
two pieces of paper.
Hey, here he is.
I mean, it's a safety issue. I think sooner than later it's something that should happen.
Yeah, I agree. I just don't have the paperwork.
It's number 11, and everybody
Did you
got a
obey
copy.
the speed limit?
I didn't get a copy. Can I get a copy?
So it reads as intersection where stop required, ordain that 2-16-358 Schedule C intersection where stop required be amended to include the following: James Street and High Street, southwest corner of High Street.
Council Moody's agrees with this, so we move it forward, Council.
Thank you. Anything anybody wants to talk about that's in committee currently that they plan on bringing out?
Yeah, I know we spoke earlier regarding the ATV ordinance, and now that Councilman Moody is here, I'd like to reopen that if I can, and maybe get some clarification. I know he had some concerns. We do have a lot of time in between, from the next meeting, so it might be a good time to discuss it further. Once he gets settled in. Councilman Moody, what we did was, we discussed it, and we couldn't come up with any proper determination on any changes, but I know you had some concerns, and I want you to voice your concerns, and hopefully maybe you could come up with some sort of amendment. If not, I'd like to move it if we can, but I'm going to give you the floor.
Yeah.
I know it's hers, meeting, but,
Yeah, if it's okay with the chair.
Of course.
okay.
Of course.
Forgive my tardiness, my professor switched up the meeting class today. So my thing was I wanted it specifically in the legislation, who the two people from City Hall would be on a consistent basis, and not arbitrary from the Public Safety Commissioner. So that was my thing about the composition of who would be looking at the ATV legislation. But if my colleagues do not feel that is a merited amendment, then I will vote as such on the legislation. But that was my main thing.
The way I see it, if the city's got to make sure it defends itself. That's all I see. I mean, that's what you got to make sure we can able to defend ourselves. That's the way I see it.
Councilman Moody, there was discussion, and I had a concern as well, about maybe putting someone from the police department, traffic division, or someone from the parks department. But it would have been, they may be called as a witness anyway in case, if there was a problem, someone from the police department would be called as a witness. So it kind of, it wouldn't fit the criteria, I believe. So I think we're going to leave it up to the Public Safety Commissioner, and whoever they designate, it has to be a city employee from what I understand. It could be different employees on different dates. We don't have a lot of cases that are pending or standing, and so it's not going to be something where it's going to be crowded every day, every week. You know, it may be on an occasion. So I think it's going to be whoever's available that wants to sit in on the meeting and then make a proper decision. You could talk to Corporation Counsel if anything further, but that's what I got out of it.
Okay. May I ask a question? I'm sorry I missed the early meeting. I was in any other meeting, but, so when you're saying this, you're saying that every time that there is a hearing, it may be a different person, or it's not a person? These two people, it's somebody that the Public Safety Commissioner, which is the mayor, he could basically say today he wants Mr. Thomas to be on the committee, on this hearing, and tomorrow he could want our counselor here.
Correct? No, it's going to be the same person.
Yeah, whoever he designates is gonna be the same person.
Always.
Now, I can't say if the next year he changes who he designates,
Right,
but it's gonna be a consistent,
okay.
it's not just gonna be every week they change it, and
Okay,
like was mentioned, we're talking about a handful of cases, it's not
right,
we're doing
right,
one every week.
exactly,
It's gonna
okay.
be
So
a couple
somebody's
during
gonna
the
be,
summer.
somebody's gonna be on the committee. They're gonna be, well, not the committee, but on the group. They're gonna be named, when he decides who the two people are, X and X are gonna be on that committee. They're the ones who are gonna be do the hearings, correct?
Correct.
Okay, that's fine.
If I can, here's my problem with that. So let's say, right, one thing I've learned since being here, short time, you cannot legislate intention, okay? The intent, somebody's intention, this is what they're intended to do. If it's not in the law, there's nothing binding them to do it, okay? And so what I'm saying is it might be the case, a kid from North Utica, right, Humphrey Gardens or wherever, right, says ATV taken, goes through this process, not awarded back, okay? Same circumstances, right, 3 different people at the table in a different area, right, but the ATV is awarded back. Now you might say there's an appeal process, right? But we can't establish, say, hey, this person is acting fairly, this person is not acting fairly, this was a fair situation, this is not a fair, unfair situation, if it's changing of people all the time. And the appeal process, while it is there, who wants to go through all of that? If we have a consistent people who are familiar with situations, can judge, who say, hey, we've seen the situation over here, we've seen the situation over here, here's how we've been consistent with awarding the ATVs here, here's how we, you know, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but we're not changing people. I thought they just said the same people.
But there's nothing holding them to.
But there's nothing in the, may I? there's nothing in the law to say that, so I think we need to work that, I think Mr. Moody's exactly right, that this may be what we intended, but if it's not written into the law, and this shouldn't be a hard thing to fix.
I think Councilman Miola said it right, maybe have a term, and the same person would be under a term.
Would the council prefer the term to be run concurrent with the appointee, which would be the mayor? Or would the council prefer the term to be a 2-year term and then have him reappoint after a 2-year? Because, of course, the mayor's got 4 years. What would the council prefer? Is there a majority here?
Why couldn't you say every year?
You can also,
Why does it
that,
have to be
Could-
you-
every
you're
year,
absolutely right.
appointed to run from
Councilman, the
January to
council-
December
Council can
31.
also set for 1-year term, absolutely. Would you like to do that?
Yes.
Yeah,
We got-
every year, so we have the same 3 people on the committee.
All right.
January 1
could
through
we just
December
amend the
31.
legislation
Yeah.
to include the appointee must, right, serve for 1 year? Can we-
I don't see a problem with amending it to, that they have term limits,
Okay.
or some kind of set.
So what section, can you point it out so the council can amend it out of committee, so we can move forward with it? Would everybody agree to 1 year? Anybody disagree?
I
All
think
right.
that's fine.
Stace, can you pick a spot in there that we can amend it, and I'll put it in the legislation?
Yeah, just give me,
From the adoption date?
Yep. Is everybody good with that?
Yes, yep.
Thank you.
Can I, so, this other legislation that's in committee, did we talk about, in the meeting that I missed, did you guys talk about the changing the parks of hours of operation?
So that's-
No, we didn't.
Okay, because I'm kind of in favor of bringing that out, especially now that that with next week, time's changing. And all this is basically doing is, we have our problems in the parks after dark. So this is not taken I know we want our places for our youth to be and enjoy the parks and everything, but we all know, after dark in the parks, there's not too many good things that are happening. So I don't think by us passing this legislation, I don't think this hinders anything that's going on in the parks. Huh?
Give the floor.
Yeah, I just one concern, and you know, it's gonna get dark at 3:30, 4:30 in the afternoon, you know, and my concern is, obviously, there's tennis courts up there. If the weather's good, I always see people playing tennis. I see people playing basketball. So I don't think they should be closed out if there is proper lighting.
But
You know,
I don't think that's what they're talking about. I don't think they're talking about places
I don't
with
know.
proper
It's
lighting.
considered a
Same
park, I
thing.
would imagine.
You have to actually
Addison Miller's considered a park, Proctor's considered a park. So they have, yeah, I mean, so if we shut it down,
Well, then we need to put one simple line in
Right,
there to
that's-
say,
that's-
if there's
that's my
proper
concern.
lighting, you know, I mean, I agree with you. Nobody should stop anybody from playing basketball on the park. But what I'm saying is, you shouldn't be walking around Proctor Park, kids going in Proctor Park or any other park after night just hanging around. Yeah, they're gonna, right, and it's gonna be up to the police to enforce that.
I think Longville, anything's got lights on it now, it is what it is. I mean, they're gonna play tennis, they're gonna be in Longville Field, 7 o'clock.
Right, but Longo Field's it's lit up when there's a special event going there, a football game.
There's a game at night.
Well, yeah, but, okay. But it's 3:30 in the afternoon for about 2 months, and then we get the snow, and then we change it. So it doesn't really, I mean, the big picture is hanging around places is to try to stop loitering and whatever goes on in the park. I don't,
Councilperson Friend?
closing the gates? Is that locking gates?
Some
Some-
parks have it,
some
like
parks
South
don't
Park
have
has
them.
it, a locking
But
gate.
some parks don't have gates.
Yeah.
I would just like to say that this is another example of why we need to have more time to hash things out in committees. I'd like to, this is a complicated question. We're all raising different kinds of
We got a half an
issues
hour.
about whether parks are lit, whether parks are gated. You know, is it really inappropriate for somebody to be in a park at 7 o'clock on an October evening if it happens to be really warm? We're trying to, you know, back to Mr. Moody's point about legislating intention, we're trying to pass a law which will prevent people from doing perfectly good, innocuous, innocent things because we want to try to get at the people who are doing the bad things. I'm not sure that that's the best use of the law. I'd like to see us hash this out in a committee meeting.
so we
I
got,
believe there is
we
a
got
law. No,
25 minutes, let's hash it out.
Yeah, we got a half an hour. We got a half an
Alright.
hour.
I have a question, just
Cor-
legislatively. Why was this proposed in the first place?
Well, I believe that the mayor feels that the police department should have another tool to utilize in case of there's complaints in the parks. For example, Mr. President, if there's people who are being disruptive at dusk, the police department has the right to remove them. With the legislation now, they have the right to stay there till 9 o'clock. So, of course, being there at dark with all the lights off, they may be just sitting there having a little, having a little picnic with a little candlelight or flashlights, which is fine with everybody. But if they're over there shooting fireworks, beating each other up, or getting in trouble, of course, the police department need a tool to remove them from the park. So I believe this is just a tool for them.
Would they already be like disorderly conduct?
Absolutely.
Beating people up is illegal.
Absolutely.
If I can
but
have the floor when you.
there's a
Corporate counsel
there's a
has the
gray
floor
area
next.
where the police department have the right to remove them versus their right to stay there.
All right,
So.
I'm good, thank you.
Stephanie?
Just to make it clear, just to echo Councilman Miola, it is to give the police another tool, and I don't want to speak on behalf of the police, but if someone is in there for an extra half hour and they're doing something completely innocent and they're, behaving in the parks, I don't think the police are targeting those people. It's these winter months where, it is dark, we don't need people frequenting the parks, at these late hours, and causing disturbances and all of that nature. And again, I don't think they're targeting areas where it already is lit. It's, it's areas of the parks where it's completely dark. Proctor Park is a really good example. I mean, it's dark aside from that one area when the basketball court is lit. So.
Absolutely, the mayor lights the basketball courts till dusk, as long as the kids are playing and nobody's, getting in fights and no disruptions. Of course, the mayor would love the children to play until, late playing basketball. It'd be something great exercise, it's something that they need to do. But when there is an occurrence and the police department do have to arrive, the police department have the right to remove them if they're continuing to be disruptive.
So,
Councilman Moody, you have the floor next.
Yeah, I think that I get the critique for Proctor Park. I'm voting no on this, absolutely. Absolutely not supporting any law that arbitrarily decides when sun is down. It's arbitrary. I can imagine right now, kids in Kimball Park playing a game who, for whatever reason, has not had the best run-ins with police officers, not had the best run-in with law enforcement, a knucklehead kid, but at that particular time, not doing anything wrong. Officer sees that kid and says, oh, you need to be out of the park. It's not sundown. Yes, it is. Who decides that? Who's right or who's wrong? The officer or the kid playing basketball? So, absolutely not supporting that.
So you believe that the police department would actually go forward and take a kid off the basketball field if they're having a good time and not bother
Do
anybody?
I believe it? No. But
Okay.
can it happen? Yes. And what do we do? What do we do when good cops have bad days, which is what I'm trying to ward
We all have
against.
bad days, Councilman.
Therefore, if the law was not
Absolutely.
arbitrary like it is, for literally is setting up a scenario where who decides what sundown is? So I do think there is merit to the fact that there is a time there is some weather changes. I think that we need to specifically put in law when the parks close, at what times, as opposed to saying that parks close at sundown.
You
So,
have the-
so just
wait a
just-
second.
Just to make it clear, there are set times for sunrise and sunset as determined by the weather department. And the reason we picked sunrise and sunset is it does give flexibility. So for example, instead of arbitrarily picking a number, 9 p.m., 8 p.m., 5 p.m., it gives people
A
that
chance to finish the
flexibility
game, yes.
to, be in the
Absolutely.
parks at hours. So for example, in, August, you can be in the park until probably 9 p.m. when the sun sets, versus October when you can be in the park until 6:30. And then in the winter, it's 5 o'clock. That's why sunrise and sunset was picked. There are numbers as put out by the weather service. So, there is a set times, and that's what we would use, if we were to prosecute something, or the DA was to prosecute something. That's the time they're looking at. And again, I don't think the police department is going out saying, it's 6:54, people need to be out of the parks. They're, again, this is the method, to give them some flexibility.
If the flexibility argument is it, the police department don't have a whole apparatus of tools that they can use. If there is something being done disorderly that is not in the parks, I don't buy that argument that the police don't have the tools that they need to adequately deal with the issues that are at bay right now. And if they are saying that they need an additional 2, I would love to see the data that says we had a situation in a park and we didn't have the tools to correct it.
Let me give you an example, Mr.
Not example, data.
Council President has the floor next.
I'm sorry.
Are you good, Council
I
President?
mean,
All
if
right,
we
so,
go,
actually, no, I've got the floor for real. So, 2 things. I know that I'm not technically, if there's 9 people here and there's no tie or anything, I'm not a voting member, but 2 things. First, this has come up before, and I'm going to give my opinion on it, but it's reflected in other council people as well. Anytime we do something legislatively that creates a situation where police officers have to enforce, it needs to be very objective. There could be no subjectivity, because then there's a decision that needs to be made. When the police department shows up, it needs to be you're either breaking the law or you're not. And there's no, if a police officer has to say, hey, I'll let you go this time or not the next time, it's not like a warning, but now you have to, you're putting discretion in the hands of a police officer, and they need the tool of pure objectivity, especially nowadays when things are, this came up with the smoking when we banned smoking in certain parts of the park, was another subject matter. Now, the second thing I wanted to mention was our parks at night, and also what are we defining as park? I have a park across the street from my house. There's Johnston Park in Cornhill. There's Kemmel Park. There's multiple tiny parks throughout the city that people do frequent after dark. There's children playing after dark. And then we're talking about winter when it gets dark earlier. We have cross-country skiing. We have snowshoeing. We have hiking. All of that takes place after dark for certain. And many people, especially on moonlit nights, definitely use our parks, especially in the winter. So I'm going to ask the council to just put this back in committee and think it over. If there's certain problem areas that we have data on that we need to say draw a line around and say, look, this portion of the park, due to where it is, like the inner woods of like some piece like that becomes more nefarious and we have data on it, fine, but just legislating parks, you're talking about every grass-covered area in the city that's not owned by a private person. Someone's not going to be able to be in after dark without the potential for being kicked out, by the police. I just want to put that out there.
Councilperson Friend, you have the floor.
Thank you. I agree with all of that, and another way of thinking about that is that this law would criminalize perfectly innocuous behavior, and such as cross-country skiing up through Roscoe Conkling on a moonlight night at midnight. It would criminalize that. And the idea that the answer is, oh, don't worry, that's a bunch of laws we won't enforce because that's not the trouble we're going after, is a completely unsatisfactory answer and a completely inappropriate approach to the law and approach to our citizens. And I'm definitely going to, if we bring this out tonight, I'm a no on this for all sorts of reasons. All the examples so far of beating people up, that's already illegal, right? There's all sorts, the kind of stuff that we've been told are the examples that we want this law in order to crack down on is stuff that's already illegal. We don't need to layer on top of it simply being out in a park at 9 o'clock at night on some warm October evening. The idea that that should be illegal is just kind of offensive. Okay, thanks.
Councilman DeBrango, you have the floor next.
yeah, just a quick comment. If we do decide to vote on this, which I think we should go back to committee, there
Yeah.
should be a lot further discussion.
Yes.
You got to get proper signage anyway. I mean, you're going to have to put opens at dusk. I mean, you know what I mean?
At
Dawn and closes at dusk. But it could be only for certain areas, maybe some trouble areas that maybe we could just signify the trouble areas, the people that, if you have the basketball courts and you have, like you said, the cross-country skiing, that could be open. But if it's deep back in the Proctor Park where everybody walks, that second park, I don't know what, it's down by Rucker Street, maybe that one could be hands off because there is no lighting there at all anyway. I'm just throwing that out as an example, but maybe we could designate certain areas and have proper signage. That's something we could discuss further, but I agree, let's keep it in committee and we could discuss it further.
Judge Garamone, you have the floor next.
I just want to say that I agree that the law should always be somewhat specific to be enforced. And I agree with the president there. And I think police officers or anyone who has to enforce the law sometimes gets confused as to whether they have the authority at that particular time. And I agree with Mr. Brango. This thing should stay in the committee for a little bit. There's no need to hurry on this, quite frankly. And I think we ought to think about it because, as was pointed out, I cross-country skied at the golf course under moonlight. And a lot of people do that. And we had some really nice trails once. And they were made to be there after dark because there's really no reason not to on a mid-moonlight night. And people walk around Proctor Park down on Rutgers Street at their leisure. The only problem with that is that there is not and will not be the kind of security people think exists when you do that. When you're in those parks at night, cross-country skiing, or you're walking around Proctor Park because you can't sleep and you want to go there on Rutgers Street and you're walking around at 10 o'clock at night, you're very unprotected. So you have to think about that, and we're not going to set ourselves up to liability either because we do not have the manpower to police those areas. So when we're thinking about that, maybe signage should be there that if you're in a particular place after a certain time, you do so at your own risk because the city has to somewhat absolve itself from any liability as well as police officers, you know. So I think there is no reason to rush on this, I think, tonight. I think everybody's made a good point about everything. Even I sit here and I really worry about the confusion that could exist in the minds of those who enforce our rules because we're not clear enough. And I sit here and I listen to all of your arguments and they're all very good. And I have to admit to you right now, at this moment, I can't think of anything that will satisfy all the arguments. And also remember, everything we do, we always have to think about the liability and the protection of the people who are there. You know, you walk around Proctor Park on Rutgers Street at 10 o'clock at night, all by yourself, that raises some question if something happens. So all that having been said, I agree with those who think we should just think about it a little bit more and find something that we think is an enforceable law and make some sense. Because as I said, there's a lot of places people walk around after dark and you know, it's free country and these are public lands. But you have to use your own good judgment too. You're in there all by yourself. Those gates are locked for a reason up at the golf course. We don't want people driving around in there at night. And that's a different situation. When we lock those gates, it's different because that's auto traffic. So you might have a different rule about going into the places where we have gates, and that's really the golf course. They have gates on 3 places there. They close and should close at a specific time. And that should be very definite. You cannot be in there with any kind of vehicle of any kind at a certain time. That includes ATVs, motorcycles, or anything else that you can get around that gate in. Motorbikes, you don't belong in there. And we don't want you in there because you could do damage to yourself, and of course it's very dark. And so that's my feeling. That's the only thing I voice about this. I agree that the parks, we have to think about it, and right now it doesn't seem to be satisfying all of you.
Right.
I think when it gets to where a majority of you think have reached a consensus, then you could probably adopt something.
Sounds good.
That's all I have to say.
Councilman
Thank you,
Williamson?
Madam Chairman.
Thank you.
So it looks like we got a lot to discuss, so I make a motion to put this back in committee today.
Second.
I'll second it.
Second it, all right.
Councilman Miola, you have the floor next.
I,
We heard you, Jack. Jack was saying that he's in concurrence with what you guys are.
Keeping it in committee.
okay, colleagues, I agree, but just a suggestion, like, I think everybody's on the right page, but we just need to put it in the language of the legislation. So, I believe, of course, Frankie to bring a suggestion about putting a signage is a must for the areas. And I think that if we put in there at dusk, and then add the word, if the individuals are being disruptive, out of hand, or whatever words you want to use, so the police department needs a tool that they can use there. And after 9 o'clock, of course, nobody would be enter the park. So I think we're all on the same page. All we need to do is get that verbiage onto that language. So
I thought we just put it in committee.
yeah, we are.
Okay,
We are.
I just thought we put it in committee, all right.
Councilman Beatrice, you have the floor.
Yeah, the only,
Well said by the
Yeah,
chairman of the
staying
Parks
in committee.
Commission.
it never came out of committee. I only asked the question if it was discussed when I wasn't here, but I guess it wasn't. So the only thing I might, and I'll ask you guys what you think about it, since when I first seen this legislation, in the back of my mind, of course, when I hear a park, I'm thinking of Proctor Park, or I'm thinking of South Woods, and I'm not thinking about the North Utica courts, and I'm not thinking about the basketball courts. So do you think possibly if we do something like this, we legislated each park individually? Yeah,
That'd be
that's
hard.
something,
Why we're having
you know.
a committee meeting, we're gonna have
Well, for the
the
most
here,
part-
we're gonna have the judge talk about
Okay.
everything.
I don't
Alright.
think you
I'd
can
like
do
to
that.
suggest that we have a separate committee meeting for
There
this.
you go.
Right, okay,
Yeah.
5 o'clock at our next council meeting.
okay, that's fine.
There you go.
Who's the head of parks?
Do you have anything else?
No, that's it, let's press on.
I wasn't talking. Okay. Anything else anyone wants to discuss before the end of the meeting?
I'd like to mention something.
Okay. Sure.
I was reading your emails, and I found it very interesting because you were talking about redistricting. You know, the law is clear. We're going to have to do that, but I don't think you're going to do it. I think that's something that a new council's going to do, number one. Number two, I want you to know that a lot of our source work and how we worked this out and did in 2010 is the Planning Commission and the Planning Department of the County of Oneida. I want you to know I went down to the Planning Commission and met with the commissioner. And all that data you need to do this is accumulated by them. And they're in the process of doing that for us. They tell us exactly how many people are in every district, so that according to the law, we have to make them representative by 6 districts. We divide by the number 6. And also it has to do with the governor's election and things of that nature. Anyway, I just want you to know, I thought I found your emails interesting, that I'm on it already. I'll be getting information from the planning department, and I think that is something for the new council to take up, and I think they're gonna have to, because by law they're supposed to. So anyway, I just want you to know, I read your emails, and I do react to what you think are legal problems. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
May I have the floor for a moment?
Yeah.
Thank you very much for that, Judge. I do just want to clarify for anybody in the audience that the judge is not referring to any kind of collective email conversation that the council has been having with a whole bunch of people together, because we don't do that to discuss city business together on email. We
And
don't
to
do that.
clarify even further, it was an emails between the judge and us.
Individual,
Correct.
individuals of us, right.
It was less than quorum.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.
There you go.
Thank you.
Council, you have the floor.
I just wanted to
Good,
let you-
because I don't know what he was talking about.
I was gonna say the same thing. I was like, what did I miss?
Were you feeling like left out? I was feeling totally left out, Frank.
I just wanted to let you know where I think you should add the term limits in the section for the ATVs. Section 2-16-402, subsection C, and then I would add it right after
Public Safety Commissioner?
employees designated by the Public Safety Commissioner, comma, to serve for a term of 1 year.
the best.
To the-
the best.
Yeah.
All right, we all concur?
That's fine.
Councilman Moody, you have the floor.
Yeah, it was my email that he's talking about, because I have been ranting and raving about the redistricting aspect. So let me just say this, and I even had this conversation with the city planner. I think that it should be led by the city planner in conjunction with the Common Council. So let me say that. I also felt that it was a misstep on our part to wait for the census data to talk through methodology of how we might approach the question of redistricting. Because we could have developed a way to redistrict and plopped in the census data as it came in or as it was completed from the federal government. That being said, just on principle, I don't think that a new council should essentially select their own districts. So I would have liked, and I think it would have been cleaner if a previous council similar to the legislature, the current legislature in the state is deciding the districts for the next legislature. It is not the incoming elected legislature deciding their own districts, right? So I think that we should do that. I think that we should have done that. I don't know that we can do that now, but I am interested in writing a local law that would demand us to do that. It has been 20 years since the last time we redistricted in this city, even though by law we're supposed to. So I am looking at a local law that would reiterate our position in redistricting every 10 years. So that's where I am on it.
Anyone
I hope
else?
you didn't misunderstand that all the county provides us with is the numbers.
Right.
They take the census numbers, they get the federal census numbers,
Right.
and then they tell us what exists in each district. I had all that in 2010. They chose not to move on it. There are some districts that are really have to be adjusted, and that really have. And I don't think we can, because if you look at the way it is set up in the law, it's a very complicated process, and how you delineate every place. You have to do all that. It's not an easy process, and of course there will be a lot of debate on it. And you only have what you have the month of November and December. That's all. I don't know if we'll have the data, and there are people that do assist, and of course we have a political situation here. You have people of two different and maybe three different parties, and they all will have input from their party people, and so it's really again, at some point you have to reach a consensus and decide. But the numbers and what you decide on have to comply with the statute, because that is what the law provides. So you're going to have to even out those districts, and the process of how you do that is very complicated. But there are people who do it. I can tell you that, not being specific, I know how it's done, and but it's not done by one person. It's done by all of you, and all of you are going to make a decision. I personally don't think you can do it by December 31st.
No, I don't think so either. But I think that if we don't start those conversations, we'll be here with without redrawn districts.
That's why I went to the Planning Commission to get the data for you, and I have been promised that as soon as the data is available, I will share it with you. And from that point on, we can move forward. And until we get to that point, whenever that department put that data together, I will immediately give it to you, and each one of you will know what it is and what your task is. That's the best I can do for you at this point. Okay?
Thank you.
you.
Anything else? All right, meeting adjourned.
Order, 7:04, October 20th, City of Utica Common Council. Clerk, please call the roll.
McNeil, Burmaster, Friend, Miola, Moody, Beatrice, Williamson, Lometico, DeBrango, all present.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence for the deceased members of the council. All right, first order of business is the previous meeting. We have some minutes, which I'll read.
Make a motion to dispense with minutes.
All right. There's multiple seconds. We're going to go with McNeil. Any opposed to dispensing of the reading of the minutes? All right, the council's acknowledged they've seen the minutes, been disposed. We do not have any common council guests this evening. However, I will read the mayor's message to the council prior to the public hearing. From Mayor Robert Palmieri, October 20th, 2021, mayor's message to the common council. This is in the mayor's words. I wanted to thank city personnel for doing an outstanding job in coordinating and executing the Boilermaker. The uncertainty of the pandemic presented a challenge to event organizers, but the Boilermaker Committee and the city worked collaboratively to ensure a safe and successful event. Over the next several days, the city will be announcing the implementation of several Phase 1 projects from the Utica Prosperity Initiative. The Utica Prosperity Initiative was crafted after soliciting public input to determine the community's top priorities, projects, and programs. In addition, the city will be unveiling Phase 2 projects next week. All projects are being thoroughly vetted by independent third parties to ensure applicability and compliance with federal guidelines. That ends the mayor's message to the council. Public hearing. I don't believe we do, but do we have anyone in the room that would like to speak on behalf of 503 to 505 Leah Street, 1144 Brinkerhoff Avenue, 782 Elizabeth Street, and 824 Waverly Place? Okay, public hearing is now closed. We're going to move those properties at this time. Do we have a motion to pull Ordinance 2, sale of 503 to 505 Leah Street to Marisol Collado for $250 from the URA? We have a motion from Miola. We have a second from DeBrango. Any opposed to pulling that from committee? Okay, that ordinance is on the floor for a vote. Your votes. Jack, your vote on Ordinance 2. All right,
9 yeas adopted.
thank you. Is there a motion to pull Ordinance 4, approving the designation, or the sale of 1144 Brinkerhoff Avenue to, where is this one? Jesse and Luberta Dennis for $250. We have a
Second.
motion from Williamson, second from Friend. Any opposed to pulling that from committee? Your votes. Jack?
9 yeas adopted.
I like it. It's like a sitcom. Is there a motion to pull Ordinance 6, the sale of 782 Elizabeth Street to Asad Iso Hamza and Merzetta Hamza for $12,000 from committee? We have a motion from McNeil, a second from Burmaster. Any opposed? All right, it's out of committee. Your votes. Lomatico?
One more time.
Jack, Lomatico?
Your vote?
Your vote?
9 yeas adopted.
It's delayed, you know, the cable, the.
Yeah. It's like we're in the 50s. He's like in Australia. We're on like a landline, right? Yeah, he's hearing us, that's for sure. Is there a motion to pull Ordinance 8, the sale of 824 Waverly Place to Anthony and Antonio Lucas for $15,500? Oh, man, there's so many people with the motion. I'm going to go with Beatrice on this one. Who's the second? Ah, Moody. All right, any opposed to pulling this from committee? All right, it's out. Your votes, please. Lemetico, your vote.
One more time.
Lemetico, your vote.
Well, that internet's moving real slow lately.
Oh,
9 E's adopted.
all right. All right, that concludes the properties for public hearing. However, we do have some new pieces from URA. Is there a motion to introduce the resolution calling for the public hearing on 1311 Francis Street on November 3rd, 2021 at 7 p.m.? All right, we got Williamson and McNeil. Your votes. Councilman Lemetico, resolution number 1, 1311 Francis Street.
Fiber optic supposed to be pretty bad in that area.
All right, we're going to move ahead with the votes on the board.
8 yeas adopted.
I wasn't there yet. I was on the resolution. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Right.
Like
All right, so...
like the motion to put ordinance number 2 into committee, Mr. President, for the sale of 1311 Francis Street.
Thank you very much.
Second.
We have a second from, who was McNeil. Any opposed to putting that in committee? All right. It's in committee. Let's see. That was the last one, right? I can't find any others. All right, next order of business. Public comment period. We have one person signed up to speak. Tony Leone, can you please approach? The Common Council has provided you a copy of Section 3244 Public Comment Period Rule. Are you in agreement with this?
Yes, I am.
Please state your name and you will have 3 minutes.
My name,
That's legislator Tony Leon.
that's fine. Thank you. My name is Tony Leone. I reside in North Utica. I am the legislator for the 23rd District. And I know that we've had a number of flooding problems in North Utica. There is county money available for flood mitigation. And I'd like to see if we can get a joint venture together. I've talked to Councilman Beatrice about it, Councilman DeBrango, and Lemetico, and anybody else that I've talked to about it that I can't remember, but, and I actually mentioned it to the mayor last week. I talked to him, and if we can come up with a joint project, and it doesn't have to be a big project, we've talked about maintenance of those stormwater streams every year, and if we can do a little bit every year and get matching funds from the county and the city, maybe we can get things moving. It'd have to be a specific project that's obviously put together by your engineering department. And I'll be glad to work together and get the paperwork and put it through the county, if we can do that. Okay? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
No Ryan's gonna vote for you now.
Thank you very much. That concludes public comment period. Reports from the city officers. Deputy Chief Noonan.
Nothing to report.
Thank you. Chief Ingersoll. Nothing to report. Commissioner Thomas.
Nothing.
Corporation Counsel DeGiorgio.
Nothing.
All right. Thank you for your presence. You're all interacting and constantly answering questions, so it's appreciated. Do we have any cash reports?
Yes, the City of Utica cash report for September 2021 is $62.9 million received and filed.
Thank you very much. Next order of business, petitions, remonstrances, and appeals. First District, Council Member and Majority Leader, Maria McNeil, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. With Halloween being around the corner, I just wanted to remind everybody who's out there trick-or-treating to be safe. And the door lights that are on, those are the ones to go to. The ones that are off, please respect that. And that's it. Pick up your garbage after you eat the candy. Don't leave it all around the neighborhoods. Everybody will appreciate that. Thank you.
Second District, Councilman Burmaster, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have two ordinances I'd like to bring onto the floor tonight. The first one is proposed ordinance number 4. It's intersections where stop required, ordained that section 2-16-358 Schedule C. Intersections where stop required be amended to include the following areas: Erie Street at Jason Street intersection, northeast corner to control westbound traffic. Erie Street at Jason Street intersection, southwest corner to control eastbound traffic. Be it further ordained that the proper signage be erected where necessary. I'd like to make a motion to.
Did you say two separate ordinances?
This one, and then he's saying he has.
Then I have a second one.
Okay, so you don't mean to split this. Okay, perfect. All right.
I'm sorry.
I saw it. I wasn't sure. I just wanted to make sure we were doing it right. All right.
I'm sorry.
Your votes. Councilman Lomatico, are you still with us? All right.
9 yeas adopted.
Okay. You still have the floor, yes.
My second piece is proposed ordinance number 7. It's a no parking at all sign, at all times, ordained that section 2-16-360 Schedule E, no parking at all times be amended to include the following area: Hager Street, east side from Lamb Street to dead end. Be it further ordained that the proper signage be erected when necessary. I'd like to make a motion.
Second from Friend. Your votes. Councilman Lomatico.
9 yeas adopted.
I actually just have a button under the desk. He's not even there. No, I'm kidding. You guys think this is hooked up to something? Yeah. All right. Anything else?
Yeah, I'd like to thank the Utica Police Department for setting a meeting with Utica College and a couple of their staff with some residents and my fellow councilperson, Celeste Friend, and it was kind of productive. We've got some guidelines on how to address some issues in the area where the students are having a good time, and I never begrudge anybody from having a good time, but there are limits to everything, and I want to thank the police department for getting involved and Councilperson Celeste. And secondly, I like to thank the city mayor and his departments. They did a walk in that particular area today, and it was very, very productive, and I think a lot of the issues for the residents were addressed. Unfortunately, some tickets were issued for parking where you're not supposed to be. Some of the students were talked to, streets patched. It was very enlightening, and I want to thank the mayor and his staff, the departments, the Utica Police Department, the fire department, the DPW, Commissioner Thomas, and I'm sure I'm going to miss somebody that was there, and there was a slew of us. And it was very productive, and I want to thank them for that. And that's all I have this time, but thank you.
Thank you. Third District. Councilperson Celeste Friend, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I do have one piece of legislation tonight, then I'd like to do my remonstrances after that. First, I need to request a Thursday rule waiver for this. This is ordinance number 10.
Would you like to
Motion.
waive? Yeah, okay.
Second to waive the Thursday rule, Mr. President.
Do you want to extend it for the rest of the meeting? Because I think there's one more piece, right?
That'd be very kind of you, sir.
Okay.
Motion for extended for the rest of the meeting.
Any opposed?
So this is in intersections where stop required, ordained that section 216358 Schedule C, intersection where stop required, be amended to include the following: Westminster Road, northeast corner and southwest corner to control traffic on Westminster Road and Dunham Road. This is converting a one-way stop, or a two-way stop, I'm sorry, into a four-way stop at the intersection of Westminster and Dunham. Be it further ordained that the proper signage be erected when necessary. I do want to take a moment to just to express my how much I'm impressed by the Traffic Safety Division of the UPD. I emailed Deputy Chief Noonan about this, and like within hours, there were police officers sitting at that intersection and you know, doing their data in terms of observing and counting how many cars, et cetera. And they very quickly, you know, decided that we needed a four-way stop there. This is right near Jones School, where you get a lot of pedestrian traffic, especially during pickup and drop-off during weekdays. So moved.
Second? Anyone? Miola. All right, your votes. Councilman Lomedico.
Nine yeas adopted.
Thank you, everyone. So I just want to, at the risk of creating consternation, I do want to say that I went to the school board meeting last night. I wanted to put my own eyes on the new administration building, which I hadn't seen before, and this problem I've brought up before about the boardroom being too small to accommodate the public. So I wanted to go and really see it for myself, make sure that, you know, I was putting my own eyeballs on it. And sure enough, that boardroom is simply too small to accommodate the public who wants to attend. This is a regular problem, as opposed to if there were just like a one-time flare-up of the desire for public attendance. So the vast majority of the people who want to attend that meeting are simply not able to, because the boardroom is too small. And I just want to let everybody know that even the New York State School Board Association endorses the open meeting laws that require that school boards hold their meetings in rooms that can be reasonably expected to accommodate the public who wants to attend. And with everything so fraught about school right now between COVID and the busing issue, lots of parents want to attend, and I think that they ought to be able to attend those meetings. So that's all I have this evening, Mr. President.
Thank you. 4th District and President Pro Temp, Frank Miola, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to start with the resolution number 3, the appointment of Richard Karam. Be it resolved pursuant to section 1226-E, the Public Authorities Law of the State of New York, and the agreement between the City of Utica Common Council and the County of the Oneida Board of Legislators. The Common Council hereby nominates the following individual as a candidate for reappointment for the Upper Mohawk Valley Regional Water Board by the County Board of Legislators beginning January 1st, 2022. Richard Karam, he's already there. He's been serving quite well as an asset for us, and he hits that budget pretty hard. To be further resolved, the City of Utica hereby directed to transmit the name of the council nominee to the city clerk of the county legislator and retain a record specifying the date of delivery thereof.
All right, we double-checked all the start and end dates on this. I know we've had a couple issues with that in the past.
Yep.
Let's see, January 1st. Okay, who's the second on that?
Me.
All right, Williamson, your votes. Councilman Lomedico. Richard Karam's reappointment.
9 yeas adopted.
It's gonna make me laugh for the rest
I
of the
picture him
meeting.
with like a bullhorn at the one side of the
Say
field.
Medical or change it up a little bit, you know?
Yeah.
You know? Councilman Medical or Jack says yes, anything, you know?
Yeah, no, I like it. I like it.
Mr. President, if you don't mind, I'd like to move ordinance number 8. It's no parking at all times to be ordained, section 2-16360, Schedule E, no parking at all times be amended to include the following: Harrison Ave, east side. To be further ordained, the proper signage to be erected where necessary.
Second?
Yep.
All right, it was Williamson. Your votes. Councilman Lomedico.
9 yeas adopted.
Mr. President, I'd like to discharge ordinance number 1 back in October 2021, complete streets. It was put in committee 10/26/2020.
Just for clarification, that was an ordinance amending Section 231 of the Utica City Code by addition of a new section. It was not the actual entire thing.
Correct.
Yeah. Is there a second to the
Yep.
discharge?
Yep.
We have Williamson. Any opposed? All right, that is no longer in committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have one more left. Ordinance number 15, amending ATV regulation. I'd like the motion to remove it from committee, sir.
Yep.
We have a second. Any opposed from pulling that from committee? All right, it's on the floor for
Amendment.
debate, amendments, votes, whatever you guys want.
Mr. President, I'd like to amend section 2-16404, subsection 2. I'll read the first line where we have to amend. Notification sent by the permanent police department or enforcement agency shall inform the recipient that there will be a hearing prompt scheduled before the Public Safety Commissioner and 2 City of Utica employees designated by the Public Safety Commissioner to serve for a 1-year term.
Second to that amendment?
Yep.
Second from Friend. Any opposed to the amendment? All right, if there's no further debate, this legislation is ready for a vote. Councilman Lomedico?
Councilman Medical says yes.
9 yeas adopted.
Anything else this evening?
Mr. President, thank you very much. I'd just like to wish everybody a happy Halloween. Thank
All
you.
right. 5th District, Councilman Moody, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to start with ordinance number 11. Ordinance number 11, intersections where stop required, ordinance, be it further ordained. No, let me start at ordained that section 2-16-358 Schedule C intersections where stop required be amended to include the following: James Street and High Street, southwest corner of High Street. Be it further ordained that proper signage be erected where necessary.
Second from Miola. Your votes. Councilman Lomedico.
Councilman Medical says yes.
Councilperson Friend. No, no problem.
9 yeas adopted.
All right.
Also, to last Monday, well, a few Mondays ago, General Elder Felton passed away. General Elder Felton was not only my pastor, but he pastored the House of God Church there on Genesee Street, right there in Oneida Square. So in many ways, I grew up on Oneida Square. Remember before the roundabout, and we had folks selling clothes. Bobby was selling clothes out there at the time. So he pastored that church for years and passed recently. And so I want to thank the clerk for printing off this resolution in preparation of tonight's meeting. His family had to go back to Florida, but I want to read this resolution in honor of the life and legacy of General Elder Charles Henry Felton Sr., which is one of the oldest black churches in Utica, New York, and certainly one of the largest. Whereas on Monday, October 5th, 2021, the city of Utica lost an icon and a tremendous religious leader in the person of General Elder Charles H. Felton Sr., who was a pillar in the community and pastored in the city for nearly 58 years. And whereas General Elder Charles Felton Sr. was a tremendous leader, father, husband, and Utican who made important contributions to the city of Utica through his work as pastor of the historic House of God Church, keeps dominion on Genesee Street. And whereas Charles Henry Felton Sr. was born February 10th, 1941 in Montezuma, Georgia, the son of Henry and Nameless Felton, and soon after the family moved to Utica, New York, where he became a member of the House of God Church on Seneca Street and began his ministry shortly after at the age of 19 years old. And whereas Charles planted his feet in the House of God Church and served in ministry for over 5 decades, 58 years as a clerk, 32 years as a pastor, 10 years in church leadership as presiding elder, 7 years as general elder, and historically, Charles became the leading inspiration for creating the first Ministers' Council for the city of Utica, the Utica Rome Historical Black Ministerial Alliance. And whereas Charles was not only a religious leader, but lived a vibrant and upstanding life in and outside the church community, he became a member of the Screaming Eagles marching band for 5 years and enlisted in the United States Army in 1963. He was the only survivor of his platoon after the Berlin War. Shortly after, he got married on December 11th, 1965 to Pearl Elaine Felton. The couple enjoyed 52 years of marriage and are now reunited in love. And whereas Charles was an educated man who invested in his ministry and life, he attended Colgate College and Moody Institute for Bible courses. He also graduated from Mohawk Valley Community College, specializing in machines. Now therefore be it resolved that the City of Utica Common Council commemorates and honors the life and legacy of this leader, General Elder Charles H. Felton, and places his name forever in the record of this city, and further join his family and the entire community in mourning his loss.
Well written.
Second, Mr. President?
What's that?
Was it 43?
Yeah, is the date correct on the Army? Judge Cameron is asking?
This came from the
mentioned the
family.
Berlin War. It seemed that would be in 19.
It does make sense, yeah, that was not the correct date for that
I
war.
think it should have been 43.
Born in 41.
Huh? When he enlisted?
Well, I don't know what's the Berlin War. I don't know what Berlin War is.
This did come from the family,
Yeah, that's why it's.
Okay.
so we'll go with it, and if it does need to be corrected, it's a proclamation.
Correct.
Yeah,
Fine.
okay,
Thank
thank you. We have a second from Miola, your votes, please. Oh, Councilman Lomatico.
9 yeas adopted.
Thank you. I think that's all. Well, no, let me mention this. The Community Foundation is currently, as we speak, is holding a equity forum, and it is discussing actively right now how to improve the community for a whole sorts of issues and injustices and inequities. And so I want to commend them for their work. I was on that advisory group for some time, and I believe it's been over a year that they announced their $10 million commitment to the Mohawk Valley for racial equity and inclusion and all those types of issues. And so tonight they're meeting, I believe, as a culmination of their work. And so I want to commend them. Also want to commend the administration, Commissioner Brian, for all of his work with the prosperity, ARPA money initiatives. I think it'll be good for the city. Some of the projects that will be soon announced are very innovative, and I look forward to seeing how those things roll out. So it's a lot of progress happening in our city. I'm excited to be at the table in this moment of time and see Utica move forward. That's all, Mr. President.
Thank you. Anything else this evening? Thank you for the report on that. 6th District, Councilman Joe Beatrice, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. First thing I'd like to talk about is I'm a member of the Boilermaker finish line crew, and I just want to thank everybody who's involved, not only in the finish line crew, but the whole Boilermaker. We struggled immensely this year with volunteers. Usually people, they have the second week in July penciled in, and they're here from out of town and all over. But we were there 4 o'clock in the morning Sunday setting up, and I just wanted a quick shout out to Mark Dembro, Andy Esposito, Al Calagero, and all the crew. And like I said, I've been doing this for the last 10 years, and I'm very proud to be a member of that. And the police, the city, and it's amazing. If you've never been down or part of a committee and see how we set up and break down, it's like a well-oiled machine, and that's only one part. But everybody in the city should be very, very proud of the Boilermaker and how everybody chips in and becomes a team in the community. Also, next Monday night at 6:30, we have our North Utica neighborhood meeting, and we have a guest speaker. And I'd like, if anybody's out there listening, even though you may not be from North Utica, I think it would be worthwhile for you to come to this meeting. We have I have Paul Romano from the Harbor Committee is going to be coming, doing a PowerPoint. And I know I'm on the committee, obviously. It's a very, very exciting time of what's going on in the harbor. And I think, the people should actually see what's going on. I know I've been a North Utica resident my whole life, and all you heard about was the harbor, but we're pretty close to having the harbor come to fruition. So I just like, you guys are all welcome, 6:30 Monday night at the North Utica Senior Center. Also, I want everybody, the next time we come here, the election will be all over. And I just want everybody out there, make sure everybody knows, get out there and vote, okay? Because it's very important. There's candidates, everybody works hard, and it's very important that you get out and cast your vote and do your civic duty. Early voting starts, I believe, this week. So please, the candidates, I know how hard it is to go out and the time and effort they put in, and please give them your votes. The last thing is, so we're getting down to the end on Herkimer Road. I know I've been getting a lot of calls about when are we going to finish. It's basically going to be done within a couple weeks, I'm being told. They're finishing up doing the construction of the intersections, the curves, and reconstructing everything. So hopefully we're done with that, and we can move forward. And lastly, happy Halloween to everybody. Thank you. That's all I have tonight.
Thanks very much.
Okay.
Council at large and Minority Leader Mark Williamson, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have, take out resolution number 5, authorizing the sale of wine and beer to FX Matt Brewing Company. Whereas the sale of alcoholic beverages and possessions of an open container containing alcoholic beverages prohibited in the Utica City streets, sidewalks, playgrounds, parks, and right-of-way by ordinance of the Common Council, except in certain instances where permission is granted by the Common Council. Name of sponsor, FX Matt Brewing Company. Name of event, Bank of Utica, New Year's Eve. Date of event, Friday, December 31st, 2021, from 7 to 12 a.m. On Saturday, January 1st, 2022. Location of event, Genesee Street between Devereaux and Bank Place. Be it further resolved that this permit and condition upon permitting, defending, identifying the holding harmless the city of Utica, its agents, employees from liability allegedly occurring as a result of the activities authorized herein, and providing liability insurance naming the city of Utica as insured in an amount of not less than $1 million for general liability and $1 million for liquor liability. A certificate showing such insurance to be full force and in effect shall be filed with the Corporation Council before undertaking the permitted activity.
Second? Miola's the second. Your votes.
Were we gonna go full council on that?
I hope so. We all go full.
Council Lunamatico. Beer and wine, FX Matt Brewery. All right. Just for posterity's sake, we're going to call that with the 8 votes, not the 9.
Eight yeas adopted.
Thank you.
That's all I have, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Council at large, Frank DeBrango, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm going to move ordinance number 9. It's a transfer of funds 2020, 2021 fiscal year codes, salary for the electrical inspector. Whereas local law number 2 of 2007 requires, among other things, that each transfer and appropriation from one account exceeding $15,000 within a budget year shall be set forth specifically in an ordinance and shall not become effective unless the appropriation and transfer is approved by a majority of all council members. Whereas the Board of Estimate and Apportionment did approve the particular transfer hereinafter, more particularly described on October 12, 2021. And the transfer is from A53625-101, Codes Department salaries of $21,600, to A53620-101, Building Codes salaries of $20,000, and A53620-802, Building Codes Social Security of $1,600.
Second? Seconds from Miola. Your votes.
8 yeas adopted.
Oh, he was there. All right.
9 yeas adopted.
Perfect. Thank you.
Next, I'd like to take some legislation out of the Public Safety Committee and discharge it.
Okay.
It's going to be ordinance number 7 dated 4/21/2021 to amend section 2-28-31 towing. We had a little issue of overcharging, but I think the city and the police department straightened it all out, so that won't be needed anymore. So I'd like to discharge that, as well as ordinance number 8, amend section 2-28-47 towing, same date, 4/21/2021. Could I do them both?
Yeah,
All
it's
right.
just discharging out of committee. We have a second from Miola. Any opposed to discharging those from committee? All right, those legislations have been discharged. Anything else this evening?
Yeah, I know Councilman Beatrice mentioned Election Day coming up. You know, all the candidates are out there. They all worked. It was a long year. We're coming down to the home stretch. Just be careful. And when you're knocking on doors, it's getting later and later. It's getting darker and darker as we go. So I just wish all the candidates good luck, and you know, we'll let the voters decide who the next council will be. Also, as far as the trick-or-treaters out there, the Halloween, you know, just be vigilant when you're driving. I know sometimes you get the glare on the street, and it's wet, soggy nights, leaves, and things of that nature. So just kind of be aware of your surroundings if you're traveling on Halloween night. And that's all, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't have anything this evening, so we have a motion to adjourn. Second. Good luck, everyone. Catch you later.